Hey friends, so I cover a wide variety of topics on this channel, but one of the most frequent is navigating relationships, because that's what people seem to engage in conversation about the most. And whenever I get a request for a video, it's almost always about that subject too. This video in particular is a response to one of those requests. So let's get right to it. So what makes a good partner, spouse, etc.? That definition varies from person to person, of course, because everyone has different needs and wants and expectations. There are some very basic standard issue things that I think everyone probably agrees are necessary for a minimally functioning relationship, but those things are really not all that is needed. Being a good partner to another person has many layers, and honestly, you've got to have a lot of them covered in order to have a healthy, long-lasting relationship. So with that said, there are a lot of people out here who think, oh, I'm a great partner because I'm faithful, I won't cheat. In fact, I have actually heard people say some variation of this, and strangely enough, those same people have been ones who have had significant relationship struggles where things seem to fall apart in similar ways, meaning their new beginnings always end up having the same types of not so happy endings. Is it because these people are just unlucky? Is it because they keep picking the wrong people, or better yet, the same person over and over but with a different name and face? Or is it because there's something else that is wrong or missing, which is also very important to having a meaningful, lasting connection with another person? Well, honestly, sometimes it's all of those things. Some people do, in fact, pick the same kind of partner that they subconsciously already know is not good for them and that they don't want, but they still choose anyway. Say what now? When you aren't in that headspace, it doesn't make sense to you. But when you are, when you have convinced yourself that love and relationships are constant struggle and drama and breaking up every other week, because that's all you know from what you have seen, you buy into that Joker and Harley Quinn toxic shit. And that is what is comfortable for you, and that is most likely then what you will seek out, even if you don't realize it. Because, well, people like comfort, and anything that requires you to divert from the norm or change patterns is going to be uncomfortable. So is searching within yourself to see why the hell you keep attracting people like this in the first place. That's even more uncomfortable. And that's why a whole lot of people don't do it, even when they learn some really painful lessons from their experiences. Even when they etch a list in stone, so to speak, of what they want in a partner and they raise their standards, they often fail to see or understand that in order to attract a quality person and keep that quality person, you also need to be a quality person yourself. But again, self-examination is hard work. It is much easier to blame someone else or some other external factor for failures, because then you don't have to do any heavy lifting. And this, of course, leads people right back to this. I'm a good partner. I don't cheat. How come I always end up single again? Why does this keep happening to me? Ladies and gentlemen, being faithful is indeed very important in a relationship. However, it is not the only thing that you need to have. It is a bare minimum, low-tier expectation. It's a given. Look, someone can think they're a good partner because they don't cheat and they tell you everything that they're doing every minute of the day and tell you everywhere they're going. But if they also have some other qualities that are not good, then are they really a great partner after all? The first thing to remember here is that the word good is highly subjective. You can be good at something in one person's opinion and terrible at it in another person's. So you have to keep that in mind when making decisions. And you also have to keep in mind that a lot of people overestimate how good they are at some things for understandable reasons. Nobody wants to stand here and say, hey, here's a complete list of everything I absolutely suck at. Hold on, page 3 is printing. I mean, even people who have issues with their self-esteem often try to sell themselves at least a little. But you know how we talk about authenticity and personal accountability a lot on this channel? A big part of both of those things is being honest. with other people and yourself about things that you know you aren't good at, but you're willing to improve. For example, when I was younger, I wasn't a great communicator. Most people I say this to don't believe me because I clearly do not have a problem with talking. But when it came to talking about things that bothered me or made me uncomfortable, well, it just felt easier not to. I didn't always feel safe being vulnerable or honest either, which, in my defense with some people that I was around at that time, was for very good reason. But as I got older, I realized that this is a terrible strategy, and it solved exactly 0 problems. So I worked at being better at it. And it's still a work in progress because growth always is. But I have made progress, and I'm much better at it now than I once was. Because if there's one thing that I would say I have learned is super, super important in maintaining a healthy relationship, it is undoubtedly, yes, you guessed it, communication. It's not just important, it's critical. It builds trust, it strengthens intimacy and connection, it helps you navigate conflict, it helps people understand each other. So you have to be honest, you have to be willing to honestly and openly discuss issues, even when they are things that are difficult or uncomfortable. And you have to make each other feel safe having those discussions. What do I mean by safe? It means you have to listen. You have to be empathetic. You cannot walk away, give the silent treatment, or stonewall when you don't like what's being said. Someone who constantly invalidates your feelings is not a good communicator. Someone who doesn't want to talk about feelings and just wants to make everything a joke to avoid real discussion is not a good communicator. Someone who is defensive or aggressive when you try to give constructive criticism is not a good communicator. Someone who will not own their part in an argument is also not a good communicator. Communication is a two-way street, and traffic has to flow freely in both directions. Period. And look, not everyone is naturally a good communicator, but it is definitely something that you can work on improving, and you should, because that is definitely something that makes you a good partner. Another big ticket item is respect. This is just as critical as communication to being a good partner. I don't really need to get into specific reasons. I feel like this is self-explanatory. Nobody wants to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't respect you, but yet sometimes we find ourselves there anyway, don't we? It rarely starts out that way, of course, because, people tend to be on their best behavior in the beginning stage of, well, anything, but especially a relationship. If they weren't, then the relationship is probably not going to last very long. But in some of our relationships, the familiar proverb of familiarity breeds contempt does become a reality, even when we don't willfully want it to. Because when you know a person or a situation very well, you can gradually become careless in that relationship with them. You lose the fear of losing them. You lose respect for them. But see, the thing is, you shouldn't. You shouldn't do this. And that is where, in my humble opinion, a lot of people go very wrong. You would never, say, have flirted with someone else in front of your partner when you were newly dating, right? Because you might have been afraid that you would lose them. So, is it okay to do when you have been together for 5 years? 10 years? When you're married? I mean, hey, at least at that point, the other person knows it's all in fun and you aren't going anywhere, right? But do they? Well, I guess it depends on the couple. Everyone has their own dynamic, and you need to learn to read a room properly, even when it's just the two of you in it. But I can tell you. This example is from a real-life situation I witnessed, but was thankfully not involved in. Something like this is only funny when both people are laughing, and that was not the case here. You can guess which one was not laughing. They didn't say anything, but their body language said it all. I'm nosy, so I kind of wish that I did know those people so I could find out when exactly he had his stuff in the driveway and slept in the car. But I imagine it wasn't too long after this blatant disrespect, which there's no other way to put that, what that was. Sorry. Respect is a cornerstone of any relationship. It needs to be there. Without it, there is no relationship. And certainly we can't judge these people's relationships, who we don't know, based on one incident at a restaurant with drink specials, which may have been why the guy was acting like such an asshat. Maybe it was just an isolated incident. But the thing with disrespect is that it usually isn't just one thing in the end, even if that's where it starts. You know what I mean? So, friends, look, I could make this video 10 hours long and still not cover everything that we could say about why just being faithful to your partner does not make for a fantastic, healthy relationship. Obviously, communication and respect are big things, but so is being honest in general, and considerate, and patient, and empathetic. That matters too. Being aware of strengths, weaknesses, and sensitivities, both yours and theirs, is also important. I mean, look, if you know your partner is self-conscious about something, like, say, their weight, you don't make fat jokes. You really shouldn't make those at all, actually. Body shaming is gross and shitty. But anyway, if you know they are sensitive or insecure about something, you don't purposely poke at those things to try to make them more insecure. That's just not okay, to put it mildly. And it's extremely unattractive. So is being hypercritical, or being really emotionally aloof, or putting your partner down constantly and or embarrassing them in front of others, or being overly controlling where they aren't allowed to be their own person, or being inconsiderate of their feelings, or disrespecting them, or your relationship with them. You have to not only learn your partner's love language, but become an expert at it. Learn their needs and learn how to meet them, and make sure they are doing the same for you. Honestly, that's not as hard as it sounds, nor is it as hard as people sometimes think it is. Most people don't have super outlandish needs. They just want to feel secure and loved and respected and appreciated and valued. Is that really so hard to do? Not really. Unless you're emotionally stunted. And let's face it, some people are. They feel they are damaged goods and have no desire to change that. Hell, some of them will even flat out tell you that they are, which is nice. It's a warning. There is nothing fundamentally wrong with that. But if you can't be open-hearted and love people, if you cannot make effort or give what you get, if you cannot participate in a relationship, then, with all due respect, and I truly mean that, stay single until you sort that out. Don't put people who come at you with good intentions through a whole bunch of heartache because you want to feel powerful, or because you're bored, or you're lonely, or want attention. You certainly would not like that if somebody did it to you. Today's world sometimes treats relationships like they're disposable, easy to replace things sometimes. Social media has created this world where if your partner annoys you, or what have you, you can hop on an app and post a thirst trap photo, and this goes for you too, guys. And wham, your DMs are popping. But is that really going to help the situation at all? Is it going to fill the void you will definitely feel when you lose a good person? Because instead of communicating or compromising, or hell, just listening or trying to understand where the other person is coming from, you just bounce and move on to another person? And what if that person turns out to be the same or worse? Believe me, that happens. Like I said in another recent video, relationships really aren't complicated, but people are. So you end up making them that way. That's why understanding that just the bare minimum really isn't enough to build something that is super fulfilling and lasts. I mean, if all people needed was, say, companionship, you can get a dog or a cat, either which will sit happily with you on the couch and watch TV while they demand snacks or silently judge you, respectively. Most people aren't going to be happy with the bare minimum, or with a feeling like they aren't being heard or seen in a relationship, or that they need to fight to get someone's attention, or that they need to be ready to defend themselves against whatever their partner is trying to do to make them look stupid. They don't want to feel like they aren't respected. They don't want to wonder if they can depend on you to be there. They don't want to feel like they have to do everything alone. That's probably one of the worst feelings in the world. Look, relationships are living things, and like anything else that's alive, it needs care and cultivation to survive. It needs nourishment and attention to grow. When a problem arises, you can't just ignore it and hope it goes away. You have to work towards a solution together. And togetherness sometimes means you have to set things like selfishness or stubbornness or not wanting to be open and vulnerable aside. Being someone else's other half or partner or spouse is multifaceted. Being good at that job has a lot of boxes to check. You should strive to check as many as you can, and they should do the same for you. That last part is important, so I'll say it again. They should do the same for you. It takes two people who are committed to all of those things to make things truly work and thrive in a long-lasting, fulfilling partnership. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll be back next week with another priority message. Until then, take good care of yourselves. Bye.